Top of the morning, everyone. My name is Tshidi and I'm back with another video, and today's video is the top 10 best questions to ask in job interviews. Usually after every interview, line managers will always ask to say, do you have any questions for us? And this is the time where for a lot of people, most of them don't know what to ask. So what I've done is I've compiled questions that will normally give you a lot more information about that company, a lot more information about what success looks like. So these are the top 10 questions that you can ask at the end of the interview. But what I would like to warn you about is listen very carefully throughout the whole interview so that you don't end up asking one of these questions that they've already answered throughout the whole process, because then it will definitely look like you are not listening. So listen very carefully, and then after that, pick one or two questions out of this list that you can actually ask. The reason why you should be able to ask these questions is that you want to get as much information from these individuals as possible. It is not there for you to just ask a question for the sake of asking. So the first question that I would have is, in order for this person to succeed in this role, what are the top 2 things this individual should be able to do within a short period of time? That question is very, very important, because what it does is it gives you a high level overview of what are some of the biggest concerns about this individual taking over this responsibility. It also helps you measure whether you're capable of actually being able to deliver whatever they ask you to deliver within a short period of time. So with every interview questions, the best thing that you're always looking for is, if I was to get this role, what are the top 5 quick wins for me that I'll be able to actually do to deliver, to make sure that I'm able to succeed in everything that I do. And this question helps you prepare for that should you be able to get the job. The second question is, how's this role aligned to the company strategy? That question is extremely important, because in most cases what you want to also understand is, where is the company going? What is the company looking for? What is that strategy? What are some of the things that you need to worry about? And this question also gives you a lot more insights into what the line manager is already foreseeing for this particular role. So it will also tell you from a future point of view, where do they see this role going? Is it going to be one of those roles that will grow, or is it going to be a role that's there to just fulfill a specific need for a short period of time, and then from there you walk away? So that is why this question is extremely important to actually be able to ask it. The third question is, what areas do people that usually take on this role struggle with the most? I think this one is one of those where, from a self-preservation point of view, it's sometimes also very important to understand people that have been in the role before. What did they struggle with the most, or why did they actually leave? Because sometimes it also will highlight to you the key things that the people that have done this job before you came in, that they've struggled with. And you're able to also measure if those were the same struggles that they struggled with previously, or if those are the completely different struggles that you might also struggle with when you take over this responsibility. So it is very, very important that you ask these questions, because then you get insights into the business, insights into the struggles of whatever the role is going to be, and the challenges. It's not just only going to be the struggles, but the challenges that you actually have to look forward to. And that is also very, very nice to sometimes know before you take over a responsibility. The fourth one is, what does success look like in this role? I think this is one of the easiest questions that we've ever asked. And the nice thing about it is that also, once again, it gives you insights into what the line manager already sees as success. Because sometimes you'll find that what the line manager sees as success, to you it might be very operational, and then it gives you a bit of insights whether you might want to proceed or you don't want to proceed with that job interview for future roles if they decide to call you back for another interview. So asking the questions that says, what does success look like, gives you a lot more insights into the strategy, gives you a lot more insights into your capabilities, gives you a lot more insights into what the manager foresees as success. And sometimes you'll find that, what the manager sees as success is definitely not success in your own eyes. So that's why it's extremely important to ask these questions. The fifth one, which is very, very important, guys, is, I've done a similar role to this one in the past. However, I would love to know what a typical day looks like for somebody in this role. Now, typical days are very different. For some people, they would say, based on how you plan your day, a typical day in company X might require you to do first to call all your clients in the morning, or first to reply to all your emails. Make sure that by 10 all the emails have been replied to, especially when you're in the client service space. Make sure that you've called all the clients that needs to be called. So this is very, very important in understanding for yourself, what does every day look like? Because if you also don't know what every day looks like, you might also then struggle, because you're going to come in and every day has been planned in such a way that it needs to work that way to ensure that the clients are happy or the business is very happy. And you come in with a very different process or plan without explaining it to people why that plan is like that. And also the other thing is, it also gives you insights into whether you might want to change a few things, because some of the things that you listen to when they talk about typical day, and you've done a job like this before, and you know that a typical day that looks like that sometimes could be a disaster, you're able to then come into that role and change a few things here and there. Now, guys, I've done another video. Please click on the link here above, which we go through an interview, mock interview with Kia, as well as Nombu. So if you have a minute, just click on that link and just check it out, because it will also show you some of these things where, you know, people then ask the questions at the end of the interview to say, what does a typical day look like? The sixth question, which is very, very important, guys, is how would you describe the culture of the company, all right, and the macro cultures of the team, all right? Because with every company, there's a culture that exists there, and sometimes that's the culture that has made that company extremely successful. And in every company, there's also some of these macro cultures or macro business cultures that define the success of those particular teams. And asking questions about that is extremely important, because you are able to then get insights into what kind of culture you're actually coming to get into. If you're coming into a culture that's they play hard and work very hard, or they come into a culture where everything is very serious, and you happen to be a square peg in a round hole, you might actually struggle in that kind of a culture. So it's there now. That's your chance to actually start interviewing the people, because remember, you've been answering all these questions. This gives you insights or a chance to actually be able to now start throwing questions back at everybody. The seventh question is, what is the one thing that worries you the most about someone who will take on this responsibility? As you can see, it's slightly the same as the other questions that we've asked before, but you asking what is the one thing that worries you about somebody taking on this responsibility is that also, once again, this might be one of those roles where there's a key man dependency, and the manager might blurt out to say, my biggest worry is if somebody's not available for a short period of time, we then suffer. And then you can then ask a follow-up question to say, is there other people that have been trained to do the same kind of job, or is it just only me that's going to be doing this kind of job? Because then you then are able to then plan or to start answering questions that say, is this a key man dependency type of job? The eighth question is, what keeps you awake at night when you consider this team? Now, for a lot of leaders, if you speak to CEOs, you speak to all the different leaders, you can always ask them to say, what is the one thing that keeps you awake at night? And this also, once again, tells you some of the things about what they see or where they see this role playing a part in the business strategy, or where they see this role playing a part in that particular business. So the question about what is it that keeps you awake at night is fundamentally extremely important for yourself as well as for the business. So always ask that question, because then once again, you get that insight. But as I mentioned, guys, earlier when I started this call, I said it is also extremely important that you listen to what the questions were. You listen to some of the answers that your interviewer panel has already answered in that conversation, so that you don't repeat some of these things. Now, once again, guys, if this is the kind of content that you're looking for, please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to click the like button at the bottom there, because we really need you guys to share it. You know, once you click the like, it's able to then go to more people that will be able to benefit from from a video like this one. So please, thumbs up, guys. Looking forward to actually hearing more from you. Now, the ninth question that you can ask any leader is, how does the company define development? Now, for some of the companies, you'll find that there's been there's always this conversation that used to speak about a conversation between a chief information officer, or a chief financial officer, as well as a CEO. And in the conversation, the CEO says to the chief financial officer, we need to actually start training people. And then the chief financial officer says, but what if they leave? And then the CEO says, well, if they leave and we've trained them, then we've done a good job. But if they don't leave and they stay and they actually end up becoming redundant in our business, then we've actually failed as leaders. So it is always very important to understand what is it that this business sees as development for individuals in that particular space. Because some of you guys might be looking at doing a PhD, doing a master's, doing all the other different levels of studies. And it's very important to then understand what is it that this business sees as development and the way they will actually grow you as an individual in this particular space. The 10th question, also very, very important, is what are the next steps after this? What should I expect, or when should I expect feedback? That also is very, very important, because then it gives you a timeline of when you can actually expect feedback from this business. And it is also very important that you understand if there's going to be other processes that needs to follow, because sometimes they'll say, well, from here, there'll be another interview either with my manager, or there'll be a team interview. So it is very, very important that you ask that question to say, now that we've done this interview, thank you very, very much. What do you think the next steps will be? And then they'll be able to at least give you a bit of guidance as to when the next steps are. So those are the top 10 questions that I can say. You can pick and choose from either one of those questions. They always work for almost any other role that you might be looking at, unless if you're actually looking at tech roles where those questions might be slightly different. Top of the morning once again with Tshidi, and thank you so much for listening. And once again, see you in the next video. Until next time, peace.